Ben, Sam, and Ken are on separate journeys to defeat the menacing Vile Dragon. But let's just say luck isn't on their side. If only there was a way for them to find each other and band together. Well, that's why there's Band. It's a mobile app that allows people to come together using common interests. With Band, you can find fellow gamers, chat, schedule gaming sessions, and conduct polls. Stage epic battles with friends while sharing videos and photos along the way. So try Band today. Band. Be together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the ULoL Weekly. This time it's about bracketology. I think I pronounced that right. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that right. But either way, I am joined by Matt Howard and George Crook this week to talk about the brackets from the CSL's, actually ULoL Campus Series, I should say. And welcome, guys. It's the first time we had you on the show. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
So, yeah.
Always fun.
Of course. So, so it's a 30-minute episode. Usually I go over a review of what happened last week. I'm actually not going to do that this week because I want to just get right into brackets. There's a lot to talk about, and I believe both of you have filled out your brackets, and whether or not they've come true or not, I don't. We'll talk about that later. But getting right into it, I think we were going to agree to talk about the South brackets first. Is that correct?
That is.
I think that's correct. So, what do you guys have going on in the South?
Well, first of all, there were 2 round of 32 games in the South this past week. It was UNC Charlotte versus Vanderbilt, as well as Georgia Southern versus George Mason. Now, for my predictions, I had UNC Charlotte beating Vanderbilt in a 2-1 series, which I was completely wrong. Big props to Vanderbilt, anchor down. Much respect to them. They 2-0'd them. Vanderbilt came in as the number 17 seed, getting second place in their group, as well as UNC Charlotte hit the number 16 seed. So it was kind of tough to really judge that prediction based off of seeding. But it was a fantastic performance from Vanderbilt. Can't wait to see them play, see how they stack up against the number 1 seed.
Right. What about you, Matt Howard? How did your brackets go in the Southern region so far?
The South was actually one of my better regions in that I believe I split the difference. I managed to go 500 in the South. Outside that, I've been the god of wrong so far. I'm 2-7. I'm 2-7 overall in predictions, but it's okay because the proof is in the later innings. It's in the pudding. So that's what I'm banking on here. I'm banking on the late game storylines to come through. But I did get Vandy right. Congratulations, Vandy. Georgia State, or Georgia Southern, I was rooting for you boys. Sorry to see it end that way.
See, I was happy. George Mason was one of the teams I highlighted in the group stage preview. The number 18 seed came in, and I figured, you know what? I got faith in these boys. They beat the number 15 seed Georgia Southern, and now they get to move on to play the number 2 seed Texas at Dallas. So
I was actually wanting to talk about the seeds in the Southern region. We'll talk about the first and second seeds in all the regions because, there are some powerhouses in the South, but, it's still kind of up in the air right now. But coming in at the first seed, I believe it is University of San Antonio, followed by University of Texas Dallas. You guys think that's accurate? Do you think that's going to be pretty telling of who's going to end up in the finals, or is it still kind of a toss-up?
For the South, for what I'm saying, the South is a huge toss-up.
Yeah.
One key series that kind of swayed my bracket prediction was Virginia and Georgia Tech back in, I think, week 4. Virginia beat Georgia Tech, which put Georgia Tech at the 13 seed and Virginia at 6. And in my bracket, I had Georgia Tech running the entire bracket beating University of Texas at San Antonio in the semifinals. So I think Georgia Tech's a really strong 13 seed, which is really weird to say when talking about brackets.
Likewise for you, Matt.
Now listen, George. This is why I'm your editor, I'm your boss, and I'm in this position, because I've been here a while. And let me just tell you, my friend, this is madness. All right, 13 seed making the run of the table. You got to be kidding me right now. All right, this is a wide open conference. It's a wide open bracket. I'm excited to see where it goes. But at the end of the day, right, you're talking UTSA. UTSA is the number 1 seed for a reason. All right, now I think ideally, some of this I picked for drama. Some of this I picked for storylines. I think the big one right now to keep an eye on is going to be the bottom half of the South bracket. You got incredible, just the finest storyline potential going there. You got potential for Texas Austin to take on Texas A&M. Now tell me, who wouldn't want to see that? I guarantee you can't find somebody in this nation who's not playing on one of the teams that would have to lose along the way who wouldn't want to see that right now. So that's going to be your bottom half of the bracket. I think Maroon takes it. I think UTSA runs the top end. I think Georgia Tech stays where they belong, down in, kind of where they're at about right now. And UTSA runs the table, takes it all in the South.
Speaking of Georgia Tech, they're all nice guys.
I mean, Georgia Tech's some pretty nice guys.
Pheqes, being nice means nothing in competition, all right? If they're hungry, if they got a problem with what I'm throwing down right now, they're going to have to play and prove it, all right? You run the table, prove me wrong. Send my win percentage into the dirt. I will take that as a compliment, all right? That to me tells you care enough about what I'm saying to make me look bad. And I'd rather that than have you just fold up like lawn chairs and barbecue furniture out there on the Rift, all right?
Well, Georgia Tech did make a name for themselves last year. They made it all the way to the semifinals they were in the final 8 in the nation. Them and Texas A&M were representing the South. So that's why I think this is the strongest 13 seed you'll see in any collegiate sport. Basketball, baseball, football, they don't really do this kind of style bracket, but they're a threat to be reckoned with.
You all make valid points, and of course, we don't know yet. Of course, you have to wait till we get through the playoffs to figure out who's going to go to the finals on that one. But yeah, it's an interesting bracket in the South. It's not as defined as, say, the North. Well, actually, the North isn't defined at all, in my opinion, either. But I mean, the East is relatively defined. We'll get to the East in a moment. We're going to actually move on to the West right now. Go from South to the West. As British Columbia, University of British Columbia, they are number 1 seed, which is not too surprising. They're the past 2-time champions. A little bit, I've talked about it numerous times. I'm not going to touch on it too much here. They are a little bit of a different team, but they're still a powerhouse in their respective division here. But you have a lot of powerhouses in the West. You have Simon Fraser, you have UC Berkeley, as well as Irvine. Poly State, pretty much dominated by a lot of Californian teams over in the West. Of course, California being one of the biggest esports scenes where it almost originated in the United States, it seems like. But British Columbia, they got the first round bye, the first seed. What do you guys think of that? George, you first.
British Columbia, they have their name made. 2-time defending ULoL champions. However, not so fast, my friend. I have them going all the way to the final, just to be upset by UC Irvine. I think this team is very dominant and very scary. UC Irvine will be playing, I think it was number 15 UCLA, who pulled out a 2-0 versus UC Santa Barbara this past week, as well as Cal Poly State beating Monterey. They're going on to play British Columbia. UC Irvine's team, they've looked so dominant through the group stage. I'm talking about teamfight precision. Their game time, very short. They know how to close out a game. They know how to take objectives and get the kills and secure anything they need for victory. Their drafts are phenomenal, mimicking some of the greater esports organizations in the professional scene. So I personally can't wait and really hope for a UBC versus UCI match.
How do you feel, Matt?
Well, George, you make a heck of a point as always, and you're a stats man, a new age guy, one of these math heads. But let's talk a little bit about the intangibles, my friend. All right, let's talk a little bit about intangibles. All right, we talked to Simon Fraser earlier this year, right? Mm-hmm. And they had said that they were really excited because they viewed this season as an opportunity to take back their city from British Columbia. All right. They viewed this as an opportunity to win prestige on the collegiate stage nationally. Listen, I think these guys are hungry, and I think UBC, while they have managed to keep up their tremendous winning ways, faces a lot of hurdles along the way. I think Utah's a good team. I think CSD is a good team. UCSD is a good team. And I think ultimately the series to watch is definitely going to be Irvine versus Simon Fraser, because I think that's really it's hard to bet against UBC, but something in me just tells me that if Simon Fraser comes through, they're going to be too hungry to let this one slip away. They were a game away from getting into past UBC last season in the brackets, so I think it's really close there, and I think that I think Simon Fraser has that sort of intangible, that sort of chasing mentality that's going to push him through.
I can agree with you on that one, but UCI versus Simon Fraser, definitely the match to watch. British Columbia, they get the easier half of the bracket, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, though. UC San Diego and UC Berkeley are teams not to mess around with. You slip up, they'll take advantages. But I think the UC Irvine will pull through. The number 2 seed will take the number 1 champion spot in the West.
I mean, yeah, and that's just the thing about the West, is that there are a lot of teams that have been powerhouses for years in the CSL, and transferring that onto the ULoL Campus Series now. There's a lot to choose from. But again, the teams we've been talking about, UC Irvine, British Columbia, they've always stood up a little bit above all the other ones, but there's always been great teams coming out from the West. One of them that actually did make it by in their division, because they won they won the first place. It was Advancing Technology, which we haven't talked about too much. And this is one of the fun things about collegiate games, is that I discover schools that I did not know existed. Advancing Technology, that is a school. It's called Advancing Technology University, which I can only imagine what they study there. But I had a long talk with George about it one time, and they just kind of appeared out of nowhere. Advancing Technology, I want to put a little bit of a spotlight on them because, I don't think too many people have heard of them. They're from Tempe, Arizona. They were first place in their division. They do have a bye. I haven't seen any games, haven't casted any games. Has anyone else heard anything about them? Because, like I said, they have a bye. They're the 6th seed in the West Division, the West Conference region. There's not much to tell from them. I feel like sometimes that's an advantage, because now people don't know how to train against you. What are your opinions on something, not just Advanced Technology, but teams like that coming out from a big crowd, like in the West, where there's a bunch of powerhouse California teams, and you have like Advanced Technology? Like, what do you think of that as far as advantages goes into these brackets?
Well, for me, I agree with you. I really like these college sports that showcase teams or colleges that people may have not heard of. With baseball, you have teams like Cal State Fullerton and Pepperdine, colleges you don't really hear. Basketball is Stony Brook, and now with League of Legends, we have the University of Advancing Technology. They were 5-0 in the West 6th Division. They actually performed really well against University of California, Riverside, who I believe they are the 13th seed, and they'll be playing UC San Diego. That was a very impressive win for them. Other than that, they played teams like Cal State Fullerton, Cal State Long Beach, Cal State San Bernardino, and Clackamas Community College. Those are the teams in their group. And I haven't heard much about UAT, but, being a small school, people may not have heard of them. They didn't receive a broadcast, so there's no live footage of them, which I think that can really play into their favor. Not being completely broadcasted in open air and having VODs for other teams to go look at, that can play an advantage. Who knows what picks they have? Who knows what pocket picks they have? You'd have to go deep into their personnel and just look at individual match histories to try and figure out some sort of strategy to pull off against them.
Yeah,
I think they could be a little threat to Simon Fraser if they get past this second round against Southern California.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that they don't. Yeah, it's not like NCAA where you have all their teams established for years, and you kind of know, you keep up with the brackets and the trades, and not trades. You don't really get trades too much in the and collegiate football. But players coming up or players still in that aren't graduated yet but played last year. Yeah, so with ULoL Campus Series, it's not new, but it is still coming up and being on the rise. You have teams like Advancing Technology where they just pop up out of nowhere. Matt, what is your opinion on that? Just teams that aren't really on the map and how that plays into their advantage or even a disadvantage if you want to go that route.
Well, I mean, I would still say, yeah, I think it's advantageous, not that for people, what you don't know can kill you. And if you're a team that people haven't heard of, I mean, honestly, I think both George and I have both kind of written off Advancing Tech so far. But maybe that lights a little fire under them. And I think especially when we get more, when we start looking at the North, we're going to see a lot of other teams that may separate themselves from some of the big powerhouse schools here. It is, I mean, the ULoL Campus Series right now is very saturated with quality teams that are winning. I almost said ball games, but they're winning MOBA games.
Yeah.
And I mean, Advancing Tech is one of those candidates you look at and you say, well, yeah, who could disrupt George and my glorious UCI versus Simon Fraser semifinal matchup? And that's kind of the team you see there. You say, oh well, they might bring their they might throw a wrench in things, and that's always fun to see.
Well, they are the highest remaining seed outside of UCI and Simon Fraser in the bottom half of the West bracket.
Right,
because
which that's why it surprised me, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The 4 and 5 seed are in the upper part of the bracket. So UAT, do it. Go prove us wrong. We're a couple of wannabe analysts just having fun with bracketology prediction. Not you, Pheqes.
Oh, no. You guys are doing. You guys have more knowledge about this than I do. You guys write about this all the time. I try to look what I can, and of course.
Oh, you're a caster.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Which let's break away from the South and the West now. Let's go over to the East. We're gonna leave North for the last. Actually, we're technically gonna leave Big Ten for the last. But as far as the ULoL campus brackets, we're gonna leave the North for the last. We're going over to the East, where Toronto is. They've not even been touted by us, by their peers in the West Division, but also their peers in the North Division and any other division. Toronto, the #1 seed in the East region, and they've been eyed to take it all the way. Carnegie Mellon being the 2nd seed, while they have a great team, no one really talks about them like they talk about Toronto. What are your opinions on that one, George?
First of all, I'd like to say I do not like the East region right now because I was 3-3 in round of 32 picks. They were the cause for the majority of my losses in pick predictions. But for Toronto, this team is ridiculous. They're looking to overtake and claim the throne of best team in Canada. And don't be surprised if they do it. They can run the table very easily. They have a decent route to the finals, looking at the top half of the bracket with only teams like Western and potentially a McMaster or Waterloo in their way. But McMaster losing the likes of their support from last year, their mid laner. This is a new McMaster team that, could struggle against the likes of Toronto, who is staying consistently strong. And with Waterloo, you have McMaster, Waterloo, the two teams representing Canada in the East last year. Who knows, could they even be stopped? Could Toronto be stopped? You mentioned Carnegie Mellon's the #2 seed. They're a good #2 seed, don't get me wrong. I just think Toronto will be the better team. But the Toronto-Carnegie Mellon final is looking very promising.
All right, Matt, your opinions on that?
Well, yeah, no, I think I echo the sentiment. I echo, George, your misgivings about McMaster and about Waterloo. I mean, listen, when we talked to McMaster earlier this year, they said, well, it's we've got a lot of change going on, and so we're really kind of planning more for next year than this year. All right, get that out of here. All right, you want to make a run here, you got to make a run. All right, so they've got an opportunity here to do something, but I mean, both Waterloo and McMaster may have to look out for a rising Veneer, maybe. Do we have to keep that on the horizon? Veneer looks hungry.
No, apparently
I
not.
mean, I don't know. I just think Veneer has to play Waterloo up next. although Waterloo, we're kind of putting them down a little bit, it's still Waterloo. This is the team that advanced last year to the Final Four. They went down to DreamHack, and they had a tough series against who was it? Was RMU, I believe.
It was Maryville.
Was it Maryville?
Yeah.
They had a rough series against Maryville, but you know what? They still don't have their presence known. So I don't think Veneer should be that much of a problem for them. It's more of the lines of, as we're saying, Toronto. You know, the number 1 seed actually does matter a lot in the East because they earned it. They earned that fair and square. You go down their roster, I mean, it's hard to find a chink in that armor.
Very fair on that one. Yeah, there's not really too much to talk about with the East because of Toronto's domination. Veneer's win or not lately, that's notwithstanding. I mean, yeah, you can go around and talk about like other teams that like University of Advanced Technology, because I mean, there's George Brown of Villanova, and people know who Villanova is. There's no question about that. But as far as a League of Legends team, might be a little bit more obscure. Of course, Stony Brook. I mean, these are teams that there's so many obscure teams in the East that are coming up on the I guess coming up into the ULoL Campus Series scene. But Toronto, yeah, they've made their ground. They've taken their ground. They've established what they are, who they are already. They established it last year. They were a great team last year too. That's the thing. And Toronto, they've looked even stronger this year. So I mean, like I said, there's just so many of those teams where like, oh, I've never seen them in League of Legends. That you could make a stake about, who they, Veneer might could go to the end. But I mean, with Toronto, they're being dominant and not really showing any give on that. It's really hard to make a claim for them. So, yeah, I would say Toronto as well, going all the way to the end. Carnegie Mellon does, like I said, they do look good, but Toronto just looks better. The East is, in my opinion, that was one of the more predictable brackets to going into this campus series.
Yeah.
But speaking of unpredictable, let's go to the North, where I have no idea how that's going to end because there are so many good teams right now. Robert Morris University, you have Maryville, of course, and Robert Morris University and Maryville, the 1st and 2nd seed respectively. It's really up in the air, and they've been firing back on Twitter about who's better, who's that. And of course, I would love to see them in the finals just so I can see both of them take each other on. I think that would be a fantastic North Regional Championship. You also have University of Kansas in that, which is the 3rd seed in that bracket, they're all very strong. 4 challenger team. I actually had them on the show last week. Columbia College, also a very strong team, the number 4 seed. There's a lot to talk about in the North. George, I'll let you start.
Man, there is. You can't really put a direct take on the 1 and 2 seed in the North. You have to look at the entire top 8. All these teams, I think this is the strongest top 8 in any of the regions. And I even believe an 8 seed like Grand Valley State could take on the champion of the South, a UTSA type team. Robert Morris, we already know them. Phenomenal team. They're starting to have that Team Liquid curse, even though it's not 4th, it's 2nd for them.
Yeah.
This could be the year they break away. Who knows? Especially with the new format that Riot's proposing for the college championships, they could have a good run. Up next, you have Maryville, the team that never loses. They haven't lost a competitive match yet to date, I believe.
They haven't lost a best of 3. They have dropped a game in a best of 3, but they have not lost a best of 3 yet.
So they still have the clean sheet if you're talking about sets. Going back to last year, the undefeated run, phenomenal run. Yeah. Going to this year, perfect 10-0 in group stage. This team looks scary. And then you go down to Kansas. If you just take a look at the Flex Q Challenger 5v5s and you scroll down, you'll find the entire Kansas team there. All 5 starters are in ranked Flex top 100 Challenger. And then Columbia College, the new kids on the block. We covered them earlier, and they're hungry. They said even at 50%, they can still beat teams up on the semi-pro level. This team is looking really good, and these 4 teams are shaping up to have the best semifinals we will potentially see.
Yeah, it's going to be an amazing bracket. Matt, what are your opinions on the North right now?
I think the North is wide open. I agree. Let's not forget about some of the other teams that are in the mix there. You know, Grand Valley State again, right? The University of Chicago is no slouch. We're looking at a really, really fun North region. And let me just say this, right? Now my brackets have not gone public yet, so the Salt Storm, I suppose, will have to start here. But listen, RMU. George pegged you guys as going the way of Liquid, and I hope you don't. But I mean, if that's the case, I've got you dropping in semifinals right now to Columbia College, who's a newer, hungrier team. Now let's just walk me through my logic here. Right now, Robert Morris, these guys were the progenitors, right? These guys were Collegiate League of Legends forever, right? But somehow they always ended up bridesmaid. They were never the bride. And awkwardly enough, what can happen in that sort of situation is it can start to play on your mentality. And let's also keep in mind, everyone's now basing their infrastructure off of RMUs and then making improvements. It's never the guy who invents the light bulb, right, who makes all the money. It's the guy with the better lawyers. It's the guy who would, you know, sort of invests in improving and innovating the product thereafter, right? Now, CC in particular is a dangerous team in part due to their particular practice regimen. They're a team that goes in cycles in order to eliminate as much burnout as possible. So they're hoping to peak come sort of the middle to late rounds of these playoffs. And if they are, I don't know if RMU is going to be able to hold them back. Kansas versus Maryville. Oh, what do I say?
This...
I mean, I noted on my bracket, right, for like top 8 and up, just screams internally, right? Like, I don't know what to even say anymore. I think there are a lot of potential pitfalls for all these teams here. And I do have Maryville taking it over CC to win the region. I think CC's in the mix, but it can go any different number of ways, you know? Listen, Kansas is a powerful team, but if they start winning too easily, too quickly, it might go to their heads, you know? It might go too far. They might fall apart. They might crumble, right? Oftentimes, the really hard exterior shell belies a very brittle interior. All right. So I mean, let's see what happens with them. I'm not trying to curse them or anything, but
I'm basing my picks off of personal experience. I have Kansas beating Robert Morris in the grand finals for the North 2-1. It may seem surprising. I have them beating Maryville. They will give Maryville their first loss in a set. They will give Robert Morris that second place again. Kansas is a team, although you say they may get a little bit cocky or a little slow just because they're such a dominant win. Having my college play them earlier this year, they were not that way. They were a very fast-paced, hard-controlling game. They just took the reins and they went with it. And we all saw what happened with the Kansas K-State match, week 5 or week 4/5.
Yeah, it was a Saturday, yeah.
It was like a Friday night or a Saturday night, but they dominated. Yeah. They had such a clean game. This team is a huge threat, and I could possibly see them winning the entire college championships.
Well, I have the Cincinnati Bearcats winning it all because I'm from Cincinnati, and that's how I base my picks. All right.
Go Bearcats.
They're not... I love the Bearcats. I don't know if they're going to win. Actually, who I really like is the Ohio State University. So you might have wondered where some of the teams are. They are some of them are in the Big Ten. So we inevitably have to talk about that as well because they have their own entry into the playoffs as well. And there has been recent information about the wild card tournament going into that. I'm actually going to give it over to George in one moment because he can detail it more fluently than I can. But yeah, the championships, the winner of the 5 leagues advanced to the college championships. But you're wondering how that might work because there's North, South, East, and West. Seems pretty logical. But then you have the Big Ten. First off, we're going to go over the teams in the Big Ten and where they're standing at right now. There's 2 divisions, East and West. And University of Michigan right now, they are leading the East. And Ohio State University, despite all my love giving to them and my spirit energy being poured into them, they are number 4. They're actually tied for 3rd right now, following University of Maryland and Rutgers University. And then the bottom of the East Division is rounded out by Michigan State University, not to be confused with University of Michigan, two very different teams with two very different records. And then Indiana University at the very end. And now in the West Division, this is going to be more of a cluster. I'm going to refuse to say in the word that I really want to say to that. But there's 3 teams vying for number 1 spot, and then 2 teams vying for the number 2 spot, which means whoever wins on the number 1 spot is going to have to be vying for this number 2 spot as well, which is why I'm calling that a cluster, because Purdue University, University of Wisconsin, University of Illinois, they are all standing at number 1 with 3 wins. University of Minnesota and Northwestern University is vying for 2nd, possibly 3rd, maybe even 4th. I don't even know at this point. At 2 wins, and then of course you have University of Iowa. Bless their heart, they don't have a win yet. So somebody has to have that record. But thoughts on that, George? East and West Division, go.
You know, I've gotten to cover doing the ULoL weekly recaps. I've gotten to cover some of the games that have been broadcasted. Big Ten, it's a Power 5 conference in the NCAA. Always has good lineups and stories for old rivalries. But looking at it from a League of Legends perspective, it's very interesting. The way the Big Ten will format and decide who's the overall champion, top 4 teams per group will advance to a single elimination bracket. And then the winner of the East will play the winner of the West live on the Big Ten network for the grand finals, battling for that spot in the college championships that will take place at the end of May. You look at a team like Michigan, 4-0 right now. They're a pretty dominant team. Haven't seen much of them, though, of the games that haven't been broadcasted, so who knows what they're picking. The Big Ten, in my opinion, is very shrouded. We don't get to see any of the games that aren't broadcasted live, so who knows what picks are brewing. Who knows if they're following the meta or if they're making their own meta. It'll be really interesting to see, and I love the West right now. 5 of the 6 teams are in contention for those 4 spots. You have Purdue, Wisconsin, Illinois battling for that number 1 seed, and Minnesota and Northwestern battling for the number 4 seed. This week, I believe it is the game, Michigan versus Ohio State. So we'll get to see if Ohio State clinches that number 4 seed in the East Division. But don't be surprised if you see a team from the West. You know, Wisconsin's pretty good. I got to cover them. That was really fun. Illinois, gotta love the Fighting Illini. But who knows? I think the Fighting Jim Harbaughs will take the Big Ten.
Oh, man. I have a love-hate with Jim Harbaugh because I'm also a 49ers fan, and he's going to coach Michigan, who is the arch rival to OSU, who I'm a big fan of. So I don't know what my heart's even doing with the Big Ten right now. But
I mean, you got some good coaches. You have Jim Harbaugh. You have Urban Meyer at Ohio State. You have Tom Izzo if you're talking basketball. You have D'Antonio from Michigan State.
Jim Harbaugh is the only coach to bring the Niners to the Super Bowl in a losing effort. The only losing effort in the Niners history, franchise history, in the Super Bowl. Every other Super Bowl they went to, they won. Jim Harbaugh is the only one to bring them to the Super Bowl in the last decade. So I have a soft spot for him. But then he lost to his brother, which
Go Ravens.
Yeah. Matt, what do you say about this?
I mean,
Jesus.
I'm not gonna step into football territory because that's an old love of mine, and I might get too sweet on it. So let's stick to League of Legends. Let's talk about Michigan Premier Esports. They are living up to that name right now, as George mentioned earlier. And I think they're going to be tough to beat. They're with perfect record makes you a heads-on favorite to take the whole thing right now. So and it's hard to argue with that. But again, right? The hard exterior may belie a soft, brittle caramel filling that is just waiting to be shattered. So, I mean, if they come up to a stiff test, maybe playoff pressure gets to them. Something fun could happen there. The West. I mean, it's almost as good as our North Division over in the main bracket.
It's essentially the Big Ten's North Division for the ULoL Campus Series.
Yeah, I mean. Northwestern, I love their football team. It's a lot of fun to watch a team that refuses to compromise academics in favor of athletic success, especially when they win ball games. But in League of Legends, man, they were a strong contender in the CSL's playoffs last season, but they I believe lost in quarterfinals. just outside of actually getting a trip to DreamHack. And then they did not do very well against Illinois in their most recent bout with them. So I think they may be on the outside looking in here at the rest of the way the bracket's set up. So if we're talking top four, I think top four probably sits about the way it's at right now. And maybe the actual sort of mechanics and seeding may affect some things, but ultimately you're probably looking at probably about the same order right now.
We actually, I have the schedule pulled up finally now. It'll be very fun to look at the West because the top 3 teams are not playing each other. Illinois, Wisconsin, and Purdue are facing different opponents. So if all 3 win, we will have a 3-way tie for first place in the West, with those 3 teams being at 4 wins.
Yeah, that's and good for them, because obviously that just makes the competition a lot more intense. And like you said, they have a chance to go on to the actual championship finals. So that's good for them. Actually, I don't think it's the championship finals. It's just the college championships. But yeah, good for them. That despite how like I said, how much of a cluster that is, it does make for a lot of good competition. It's not like in the East where University of Michigan, they are completely outright winning right now. And that's that. West Division, yeah. If you were to actually be a betting person on the West Division, you have a good chance of losing money, because there's 3 teams that are still pretty powerful and vying for the first spot. So that's interesting. Just an interesting division all around. And yeah, watching footage and trying to find footage of the Big Ten, it's hard. Thankfully, they do have a schedule every Monday. Tomorrow being University of Michigan versus Ohio State University. That's going to be very exciting. Yeah, exactly, because they have an old-time rivalry anyways on the other side of collegiate sports. I guess you want to call it the physical side of collegiate sports, and they're bringing that to the esports side of it now. So I'm very excited about that. I hope Ohio State University wins, because I'm a big Ohio State fan, as you could tell. But it almost doesn't matter, because it looks like University of Michigan, they may take the East Division. But if Ohio State wins, they are going to be at I think 3 wins. And this is interesting too. I don't know if the standings, because a fun fact, the games have already played. The games are pre-recorded. Ohio State University versus University of Michigan, I think they played last week. I don't know if the standings are updated based on the plays that are broadcasted or the plays that have already been played and just haven't been broadcasted. So it's hard to tell where the standings actually are, but regardless, what's on the website is what we can go off of right now. And yeah, University of Michigan, they look like they are going to be able to take the East Division. And like I said, West Division, that's just going to be fun. And that's the one you just blindly bet on and hope God is with you on that. But other than that, what else is there to talk about? George, Matt, have we touched? You have something else, George? Go on.
I do. We have the format for the wild card and how the remaining 3 seeds of the college championships will be decided.
Very good.
So for those of you who don't know, Riot released an article, I think this previous week, talking about how the format of the college championships will be played out and how the champion will be crowned overall of who's the best collegiate esports team in the United States and Canada. So the winners of each of the regional finals and the Big Ten Network League of Legends season will get an automatic bid to Los Angeles on May 26th through the 29th for a chance at the college championship. The second place teams for each of the finals will go into a wild card formatted style tournament. So for those of you who keep up with the professional scene, the midseason invitational format is what Riot is basing this off of. So in the first round, April 10th through the 12th, will be a round robin where each of the 5 teams will play each other once, with the top 4 advancing to 2 best of 3s. When those 2 best of 3s happen, the winner of each of those best of 3s will advance to the college championships, giving your 6th and 7th team a spot. Finally, the losers of those 2 best of 3s will play in a final best of 3, with the winner rounding out the pool for who makes it to Los Angeles and has a chance for the college championships.
Right, and that's something what we've been talking about the entire time with the Big Ten, and that is on the ULoL Campus Series website. So if you want to take a look at the graphics that Riot has out, you can go look at that. The article is up there, and that's essentially how the tournament's going to be laid out postseason. But for now, we still do have the Big Ten to contend with, and of course the brackets. So that's going to be it for tonight. Matt, do you have anything in closing you want to give a shout out to or say anything of the sort?
I just wanted to make one more query to you gentlemen, just
Sure.
so that we can necessarily charge and really galvanize all of the salt on Twitter. Who's your pick to take it all right now?
Ohio State University.
That's a bold move, Cotton. Kansas University.
Ooh. Oh man.
KU, baby. Go Jayhawks.
Let's be spicy, all right? Let's be spicy. I'm gonna call CC's
Veneer.
bet. I'm gonna call CC's bet. I'm gonna put it on the line. Please don't hang me out to dry. If you guys can hear me.
Right.
Let's see what happens. All right. This will be fun. We should all put this on some sort of social media platform so we can all be held accountable for being really poor guessers at this sort of thing.
My brackets are already out to the public. They know Crook's picks, so
this is
7-4 right now.
I'm only biased to one team, and if I bias any others, I get flack. So I'm just going to stick with Ohio State University because I love them, no matter what.
The two colleges I'm biased to, unfortunately, didn't make it to the brackets, but, Roll Tide and Hail State, so go SEC.
Yeah. Actually lived next to Roll Tide for a good while. It's just...
I lived in Roll Tide.
All right, but I think that is it for tonight. George, do you have anything in closing either here?
Nah, thank you for having us. It's really fun. Bracketology for basketball has always been a thing that myself and my father do. So much fun getting to pick teams and just watch how brackets unfold and all the storylines. Hopefully ULoL will create just as much hype, if not even more hype than what NCAA will provide. Yeah,
very much so. I'm very excited. I'm really glad to be a part of Collegiate League of Legends as it grows like this. Yeah, because it is very exciting. But yeah, that is going to be it. I'm going to go a quick plug. Tomorrow we do have Columbia College versus Minnesota starting with our on our broadcast. So check that out. In Columbia College, we've been talking about them tonight. So definitely tune in, see if they live up to the hype that we've been giving them tonight, as they do take on Minnesota. Plus, we are also still hiring a social media manager, I believe. Go check out cstarleague.com for more information. Send us your application. Try to get your foot in the door for esports if that's something you're into. My name is Joshua Pheqes Quest. I've been joined by Matt Howard and George Crook, two writers. I actually forgot to tell what you guys did early on. You guys are the two writers and editors for the CSL website. So thank you very much. You guys create a lot of hype, and one of the biggest references I have as a caster, because I can't keep up with everything. It is so much easier to read it in written form because I can take that on my phone. Thank you so much, you guys. You've been awesome. But other than that, that's it for the CSL broadcast tonight of ULoL Weekly. Next week, I do have a member of the University of Michigan. Actually, one of my friends. I'll call him a friend. We've been really cool for years now. He used to go by Sleepy Tony. I think he's called One Dig now. He's the support player, former ADC of the University of Michigan. I'm going to get his opinion on the Ohio State University versus the University of Michigan game, and that'll be next Sunday, same time, same place, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then, thank you very much for joining, and have a good night.
Ben, Sam, and Ken are on separate